Hi, this is the GCSE Geography information clip. My name is Dylan Fitzpatrick. I'm going to attempt to tell you all about the GCSE course, but if there's something that I missed, then my email address is at the bottom there. But in any case, you can also talk to your teacher, your classroom teacher, during, stay behind during a normal lesson, or get them on Teams and have a chat with them about that, or you can email me. So before we talk about the course structure or anything like that, I thought we'd just pose the question as to why choose GCSE Geography. I've got some quotes there from various different people, but including the Royal Geographical Society. The bottom one there says, the Russell Group of universities recognise geography as what we call a key facilitating subject. And what they mean by that is we don't just teach you one skill. There'll be a variety of different skills through photo analysis, graph analysis, drawing graphs, writing extended work, analysing statistics, analysing data, analysing maps, analysing aerial photographs. So you get this whole array of skills which you develop, and that's why it is a really popular choice for both GCSE and A-level, and looks good on any CV. But also fundamentally, the challenges that we face in the world today are, fundamentally geographical challenges. And whilst it might not be a geographer that saves the day, it will have some kind of foundation in geography. So the top quote there is from Michael Palin. Parents may know him from Monty Python and whatnot, but he's also done lots of different travel shows. I've also included some pictures there of some other famous people who have done geography. Don't choose geography because they've done it. Don't choose it because Prince William has done it. Or Michael Jordan, the Air Jordan, the guy from the Nike trainers. He also studied geography. Do it because you want to do it. Mother Teresa, she taught geography. I don't think she took geography as a degree, but she taught it certainly. And then David Attenborough, obviously, is always on television championing geographical issues and trying to get us to change out the way we are in order to try and make the world a better place. And that's what it comes down to. It comes down to, if you are interested in people, if you are interested in places, you want to find out about the challenges that the planet faces and how we can try to overcome those and the strategies that we can use to make the world a better place, then choose geography. There are 3 units in the geography GCSE. The first one, Unit 1, living with the physical environment, and there's 3 sections to that. I'll let you read through those by yourselves, or you can pause this. Paper 2 is Challenge of the Human Environment, which covers the human issues. Again, there's 3 sections to that paper. And then Unit 3, or Paper 3, is comprised of 2 sections. One is based on the students' fieldwork. So there's 2 field trips that they have to do, and these are compulsory. They're not overnight. We just go out one time to a physical area and one time to a human environment, and then we do a write-up of those. Then there's also something called an issue evaluation. I'm going to elaborate more on these points as we go through the presentation. Unit 1, living with the physical environment. There's 3 units in this, and one of the first ones is the challenge of natural hazards. So the first thing that we start with is tectonic hazards. So these are the earthquakes, volcanoes and tsunamis, those big, horrific and very frightening hazards that occur on the planet. So we're going to be looking at how they threaten human life, the infrastructure, and how they can be predicted and managed. Moving on from tectonic hazards, we then start to look at hydrometeorological hazards, or what we call tropical rotating storms, also known as hurricanes, typhoons, cyclones. And so the case study that we'll start to use is the largest hurricane, which was Typhoon Haiyan, which hit the Philippines. Then we start to take a sort of broader picture and start to look at climate change and the impacts of climate change. So, for example, the way it's going to change the weather across the planet, but including the UK, and we can feel that now with more extreme weather events, larger seas, stronger winds, more precipitation, increased amount of heat waves. And the problems that that's going to face, not just for the UK, but the world. Increased flooding, increased drought, crop failure, and how we can try and mitigate against that. So the second part of living with the physical environment is physical landscapes in the UK. This is where we study 2 separate parts, the coastal zone, but also river landscapes. Now you guys in year 9 are at a considerable advantage over the rest of the country because of course you live on the coast and you are able to get down and see these landscapes and see the processes that are shaping these landscapes, watching how the tides and the winds and the waves change and then how that actually impacts our local landscape. Many of our actual landscapes and features are often featured within the textbooks and sometimes even in the exams, whether that's a photo or a diagram or an OS map. So you guys have got a considerable advantage with this. The river landscapes then go to look at the morphology of rivers and the challenges of managing rivers, and increasingly how we're seeing that tying up with those complex weather patterns which are changing with increased amounts of precipitation, increase in mid-latitude storms, which is meaning that we're seeing flooding events increasing in their frequency and their intensity, and the way that we can manage those, not just by trying to have a good fun and playing in the floodwater, which would be pretty disgusting, but also trying to manage those rivers in an effective way. Living world is the third section of living with the physical environment. We start to look at the main biomes of our planet, the location and how they function. Then we focus in on tropical rainforest and at how we can maintain its healthy function. And how it helps to regulate the Earth's temperature, how it helps to regulate the Earth's precipitation patterns, and all of the other services that it provides us, not to mention the resources that it provides. Maybe that might even just be the medicines which so many are derived from tropical rainforest or plants within the tropical rainforest. But unfortunately, our drive to harvest these different resources means that we are deforesting it in an increasingly rapid rate, and this is obviously having an adverse effect on the species that live there. We then look at how we can actually start to use the resources within the tropical rainforest, but use it in a sustainable way. Moving on from the tropical rainforest, we then get onto cold environments, and these are often overlooked in terms of the services that they play to the rest of the world. The ice reflects heat back into space, keeping our planet cool. So as the ice is melted, that means that we're going to see an exponential warming of the planet and the impact of the species across these polar environments and tundra environments, because the polar bears, for example, use the ice to actually hunt from. So after looking at the importance, we'll then look at just sustainable use of the cold environments in order to try and maintain them and maintain their current status. So this is Unit 2, the second unit, Challenges in the Human Environment. And we start with the first section, which is Urban Issues and Challenges. And so the world's population is increasingly living in urban areas. And you might think, well, that's nice. People are going to be living in cities. They can go to the cinema and go to clubs and take in shows and whatnot. But there is a whole host of problems which come with these rapidly urbanizing areas. It's called hyperurbanization. It's happening so quickly that the growth of the actual built infrastructure can't keep up with the amount of people who are coming in, and the people who are coming in don't have the money or the skills to get an appropriate job, and therefore are struggling to find appropriate accommodation. So they may well end up in places like this, slums. This is the Dharavi slum in Mumbai, built on the water pipe that goes into the main city. It's only about a mile squared, so not too much bigger than Kingsbridge, but it's got over 1 million people living in it, and the conditions within these can be really quite squalid. 500 people to one toilet, and that's not a toilet that you can flush. That's a toilet that might just be a pit that then goes into the street that some poor person has to come and then clean, usually with their bare hands, because they can't afford the equipment, or they don't have the equipment or access to the equipment to actually do it with any other means. Some of them might go into the river. So as a result, there's 4,000 cases of waterborne diseases, not a year, not a month, not a week, but a day. And you might be thinking, well, that is horrific, but actually this place has got an incredible culture, an incredible atmosphere, an incredible sense of social cohesion, and very low crime rates. And people, children go to school, maybe, not all of them, but increasingly they're going to school, learning English, getting upskilled and getting jobs in IT. So much so that there's even some millionaires who are live within this slum. So it's not all bad news, and we can learn a lot from this, but also there's challenges that we need to try and resolve. It's not just cities within LICs or low-income countries that have challenges. Actually, cities within HICs, like London, actually has a huge amount of challenges. So why do we study London? Well, if you look here, London actually generates 10% of the UK's income. That's not true, actually. It generates 20% of the UK's GNI. But 10% of it comes from that quarter square mile, the financial sector, where banks and insurance are selling their services. So our city really is an extraordinary global city. And whilst there's so much to celebrate about it, there's also a series of challenges which we need to try and resolve. The changing economic world is the second section of challenges in the human environment. We start to look at the development gap which is growing, both globally but also closer to home. So the gap between the haves and have-nots, those countries where they cannot afford clean water and schooling for children or have a decent infrastructure in order to maintain their economy. We'll go in and look at Nigeria, a country in Africa which is making rapid progress, has a huge amount of oil as a natural resource which you can sell to other countries, but still has huge amounts of challenges. So much so this is a group of people who are tapping into an oil well illegally. They burst the pipe themselves in order to illegally refine it. And obviously that's a very, very dangerous job, as they use or get oil and try and make petrol, which is extremely dangerous. They've also got Boko Haram, which is a terrorist organisation which kidnapped 286 schoolgirls a number of years ago. So Nigeria, whilst it represents opportunities to develop for the African continent, there's also huge amounts of challenges. We're focusing on the UK and our changing economics, and the fact that we used to have a thriving manufacturing sector making things like cars and steel, but that's under serious threat from global economic forces. So we look at how we can try and resolve those and how the UK is moving forward to try and maintain a stable economy. And then finally, the challenge of resource management is the final section in this second paper. So we just look at, again, in more detail, where the food, the water and the energy are across the planet, and why there is a disparity between where it is and how that affects people, and what we can do to try and manage it in a sustainable way. Paper 3, or Unit 3, is called Geographical Applications. It's made up of two parts. The first part is field work, where essentially we have to go out we have to do 2 days, and so the first one will be to a coastal or river environment, depending on that particular year. So we'll either go to our local coast and do some investigations into the morphology of our beaches or the landforms that are there and the processes that are happening, or up onto Dartmoor to a river to look at the similar kind of ideas about processes that are affecting the landscape. We then go to a cityscape in order to investigate what are the challenges within those cities. Where that's going to be will be confirmed closer to the date. And the second part of this paper is called issue evaluation, where you're given a set of resources, usually in about sort of March time, and it will be on either food, water, and energy, something within the course. We're going to help you interpret those, analyse those, look for patterns, and then what we're going to have to do is we've got to think critically about how we've got to solve a problem or make a decision about something, whether a dam should be built, whether a reservoir should be built, whether something should be developed, or should the tropical rainforest be maintained in this way or that way. So it's a pre-release. You get it before the exam, and then you get a fresh copy when you're in the exam in order to answer the questions on that. So geography is a fantastic subject, and we really, really enjoy teaching it, and students generally have enjoyed learning about it. And the content within the course is really, really interesting. However, it'd be probably a little bit naive of me not to sort of talk about the exams very, very briefly. So that's what the next couple of slides are about. So just to recap, 3 units. You've got your physical unit there, living with the physical environment, which is called paper 1. 1 hour, 30 minutes, 35% of the GCSE, paper 2 and paper 3, and you can see how those are split up. We do AQA as our course, so if you did want to look through the specification or have a look at the exams which are online, the exams types, then feel free. If you prefer not to Google AQA exam papers and sift through their documents, then I've got a couple of excerpts just here. So for example, most sections will start with shorter answer exam questions, which may well either be some multiple choice or some missing words, but these are what they call low tariff questions. You can see it's only up to 1, 2, 3 or 4 marks or something like that. Then they give you a chance to really sink your teeth into something a little bit more juicy. So 6-mark exam question here. Using a case study of a tropical rainforest, describe the effects of deforestation. So that will relate to what you studied in Malaysia. Then they really start to challenge you with these trickier, assess the extent to which tropical storms have effects on people and the environment. So you've got some stimulus material, and this one is out of 9 marks with 3 for spelling and grammar. And just to give you an idea of exactly how much you should be writing, this is how many lines they give you and how much paper they're asking you how much paper they give you. So that gives you an idea of the challenge that it leads up to. Final slide. If you've got this far, then well done. I'm nearly done. I just wanted to remind you of my email address there at the bottom in case you've got any questions, but please do ask your teachers. And just one final word. We are passionate geographers and we love the subject. Of course, we are going to say that to you. Of course, we are going to say it's fantastic. I wouldn't be a teacher and I wouldn't be teaching this if I didn't think that. The proof is in the pudding though. Go and ask your friends, go and ask your brothers, your sisters who do A-level geography particularly, or if you've got a friend who's done A-level geography or GCSE geography, ask them and see what they say. And if they say, yeah, I quite enjoy it, it's okay, then there's your answer. If they say, oh no, it's terrible, then I guess that says a lot as well. But I'm confident that the majority of them will say, actually, they find it pretty interesting. So if you're interested in people, if you're interested in places, if you're interested in how the planet functions and the challenges it faces and how we can try and solve those, or at least try and live a little bit more sustainably, then have a little think about geography.